Hi folks, this is Jeanette Hill for News for Scotland, and I'm going to do a report on what actually influences our democracy with a big election coming up. So this report takes into consideration two articles, one from the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, reported early on in June, Francesca Visser, Pri Bengani, and a separate report by Billy Gay Jackson, and another report in The Dark Art by Ethan Shone, which is a paper in particular looking at the political lobbying system. So the first report looked into thousands of scam adverts featuring AI manipulated videos and false information about politicians, which have been circulating on Facebook in recent months. And they estimate that this activity will increase as the general election looms near. They get around the platform rules, which the report says questions the ability of Meta, Facebook's parent company, to curb such misinformation. And in the run-up to major elections all across Europe, it's a concern. The journalists found over 8,000 misleading ads, and most of them were trying to promote an investment scam, often using false news articles with attention-grabbing headlines. One mentioned a banking scandal involving Labour leader Keir Starmer. Another claimed that the charges against the Swedish politician Jonas Josted are confirmed, and a third bid goodbye to the Polish politician Menson, alongside photos from a cemetery. Other fake articles or fake quotes from politicians were accompanied by manipulated images of politicians being arrested or lying injured or being taken to hospital. Users clicking through would be taken to cloned websites of media outlets. The report also discovered a separate set of pages that had used AI-edited videos of politicians to promote various money-making schemes. A Meta spokesperson told the TBIJ, Investigative Journalist, its systems removed nearly all the ads cited in the report at the time the ads were run. However, at the time of the analysis, Meta appeared to have taken action against fewer than half of the ads that they had identified. So they are clearly flouting the rules, these ads. And TBIG, that's the Investigative Journalist, used Meta's Ad Library, a public database, to examine Facebook's ads featuring 20 prominent European politicians that had been published over the past 5 months. The politicians were chosen after it was found that they had been featured in scam adverts. In total, the journalists identified more than 10,000 ads that were in breach of the transparency rule put in place by Meta that states ads featuring or mentioning politicians must be labelled as political. The onus is on the user, of course, posting the ads to label them appropriately. Ads that are found to have infringed this policy are removed, but often this does not happen for days after they've been posted, and the longest running ad circulated for 37 days before it was taken down. Most of us Facebook users have fallen victim to some of these ads, where they promise to cure your back pain or offer a fabulous new garden chair or a trip too cheap to be real. So what does this mean for democratic elections? Well, it means unchecked lies, manipulated photos are all out there. And given that 91.7% of us in the UK are social media users, and many are getting their news from these sources, then it is obviously a concern. The use of AI fake news is concerning, and it's concerning people all over the world, and it is affecting how we vote and affecting our political climates. A Meta spokesperson told the TBIJ, the journalist, As part of our ads review process, which can include both automated and human reviews, we have several layers of analysis and detection, both before and after an ad goes live. It is against our policies to run ads that inappropriately use images of public or political figures for deceptive purposes. Well, glad to hear that. And we remove these ads when detected. That wasn't what the investigative journalist found, but that's what Meta says. The Labour Party has a plan to pull British citizens out of the crisis, says leader Keir Starmer in one of these Facebook ads. And the footage looks real, but it's a deep fake. It has been edited and altered using artificial intelligence, and it uses a speech that Starmer gave in Scotland, but it's got lots of modifications on it. When people click on it, they're taken through to a fake sort of scheme to try and get money off you. And equally, Rishi Sunak has been used in similar ads on Facebook and Instagram. Scam campaigns. They have been manipulated to appear like they're revealing details of a high return investment or etc. And these are published across the world and viewed around over 1 million times. Some of these ads have been viewed in the UK alone. And never mind how much they've been viewed all across the world. So more than 2 billion voters in 50 countries are set to head to the polls in 2024. And with so many elections imminent, concern is growing among experts, politicians and the public about the potential threat posed by a rapidly evolving AI technology. Deepfakes. Now, a deepfake is an audio or a visual content that uses generative AI to mimic a person's likeness or their voice. So faked videos and clips can then be circulated on social media. Increasingly sophisticated generative AI has made deepfakes more difficult to spot. And at the same time, broader access to AI tools has meant that more and more of this content is spreading across our social platforms. That matters because almost half of UK adults say they use social media as their main source of news. And according to recent research released by the UK regulator Ofcom, that seems to back up that figure. So deepfakes are a part of a larger climate of online misinformation that threatens to disrupt established democratic processes. In November, Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, was the subject of a sham audio clip in which he was seen to be making inflammatory remarks before Armistice Day, which he later said almost caused serious disorder in London. The previous month, an audio recording of Keir Starmer supposedly berating his staff went viral. Again, it was a fake one, and it was viewed 1.5 million times on X, formerly Twitter. The day before April's general elections in Pakistan, an audio clip spread on social media of the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan calling for an election boycott, which his party quickly denounced as a hoax. And the US presidential elections coming up in November have also already been subject to similar interference. In February, an AI-generated phone message imitating President Biden urged Democrats in New Hampshire not to vote in the state's primary. The presence of increasingly realistic deepfakes means they can also be used to cast doubt on the authenticity of genuine footage. Earlier this year, Donald Trump falsely claimed that videos of his public slip-ups had been AI-generated. Regulators are attempting to catch up with technology, and last year the EU reached a provisional agreement on the world's first regulatory AI Act. This act will legislate for transparency so users know where they are and when they're consuming AI-generated content. In the UK, the Artificial Intelligence Regulation Bill was making its way through Parliament before the call to election. Tech companies have also launched their own efforts to curb the spread of election misinformation on their platforms, they say. This year, TikTok, X and Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, were among more than 20 companies to sign an accord pledging to combat deceptive use of AR in elections. The urgency of these issues is only becoming more apparent Last month, The Guardian reported that Meta had approved a series of AI-manipulated political adverts during India's election, which spread disinformation and incited religious violence. Now, another article, again looking at what affects our democracy, is by Ethan Shone, an investigative journalist for something called The Dark Art, which specialises into looking into political lobbying system. This looks into the way corporate lobbyists are influencing Labour policy in anticipation. Obviously, he agrees that they have heavily influenced Conservative Party policy for some time, but this is thinking we're anticipating that Labour's going to get into power, so he looked at who's influencing Labour now. It looks into the way corporate lobbyists are influencing and what's going to happen when Labour forms that next government, if indeed it does. It seems Labour is increasingly under corporate influences from big business and from the financial sector. Vast sums of money are spent in corporate lobbying to influence political policy. Excuse me. So the journalist Sean discusses the role of Labour together. This is an organisation within Labour, an in-house think tank, policy shop, an organisation I had never heard of before, which has substantial donors and offers an opposition often to trade union influence. The author also states how similar donors are to the Conservatives and goes on to explain who these mega-rich philanthropists are, like Mike Craven's case brought to the fore by journalist Craig Palast in his book The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. He was advising Blair's government on transport while setting up a lucrative deal with British Airways. Craven has put himself forward again, put himself into the game representing his corporate clients who will gain unparalleled access to the party. Such as these clients include things like the construction giants like Kia, United Utilities, Big Pharma like Nova Aritis, and he's made this model, Macquarie, which is a firm of asset managers, also a client of his. Well, previously it was a client. I think he dropped it about 2017, but made the model that was to buy a needed infrastructure like United Utilities, strip out the value, pile on debt, however they do that by some trickery or other, and all for the shareholders. Means this firm is now called Vampire Kangaroos. Thames Water is a case. Healthy balance sheet in 1989 when it was sold off, now likely to be brought back into public ownership, and has got about to collapse. It's got billions of debts. How, you might say, can this happen when it's a monopoly, selling an essential service at more than 3 times the cost it was when it was sold off? And little has been spent on infrastructure. So that's why we've got the sewage crisis in English rivers and waterways. So Macquarie skimps on investment to maximise shareholder payouts. It's known for this. It's called a great success because it does this so well for its shareholders. Macquarie sold its shares in Thames Water in 2017, but environmental and financial costs are likely to be borne by the taxpayers for years to come, and we in Scotland will pay our share towards these financial burdens, despite us fighting to keep our water from being privatised. And it's only one small part of the bigger picture. Mike Craven represents this company and is likely to hold a key role in influencing Labour Party policies. How do we feel about this as our next government? Another case study of lobbying was Labour dropping a commitment to force private equity bosses to pay the same rate of tax on their bonuses as you and me. Currently, they pay as capital gains tax, which is 28%, and if it was income tax, they'd be paying 45%. Massive lobbying by the British Private Equity and Venture Capital Association resulted in reversal of Labour's pledge to reinstate the cap on bankers' bonuses And is the tax on bonuses next on the U-turn? We've yet to see. Ferocious lobbying by this BPV and VC association means any chance of Labour making even a minuscule inroad into these centres of riches and their continued exponential growth in wealth seems unlikely to happen. Apart from this lobbying, we also have numerous accounts of Labour as well as Tory MPs taking help such as paid workers or digital support. It is unlikely that any of this information will be brought up on the BBC, on Question Time, say, or on Laura Kuenssberg's reporting, unlike the repeated attacks on Corbyn for his alleged anti-Semitism, or our current newsworthy stories on the SNP and the SNP's use of stamps. It seems small beans compared to this stuff. If that's all they can find, then we are surely doing well. But lobbying is a significant worry for any democracy, and I would like to see some strict rules applied to protect the future of any Scottish government. Billions aren't spent on lobbying for nothing, like the billions spent to make us buy ultra-processed food like oven chips or low-fat yogurts, or worse for me, creams to make my face look younger. They spend that money because it works, it sells, it creates powerful positions. These are the true dark arts. The revolutionary English poet Milton wrote in Paradise Lost a great description of the devil Mammon as the epitome of wealth. Mammon always walks hunched over, as he is always searching for more valuables, more money, more diamonds, more gold. The more we find out about the insatiable hunt by the extremely wealthy and powerful, the more I feel Mammon is in control, and this is indeed pandemonium, Milton's hell.